Going out for a walk.
Yeah, I
Oh, Sam tells it pretty well, really, doesn't he?
Oh, he tells. Oh, he really speaks beautifully, doesn't he? Very lucidly.
What's that mean?
Clearly.
Oh, does he?
Mm. Is
Do
it
you
clear?
know his translator for me?
Oh, yes, so his things got well on the road now.
Oh, is he? Oh, good.
I'd like to know more about Sam, Nicky.
Oh,
He's a dear.
he'll tell you more about himself when he feels necessary.
Yes, that's actually well.
I was not responsible.
What?
I was not responsible.
About what, darling? Oh, I know.
Pardon?
What you were referring to?
Piggy.
Yes. Where were you?
I wasn't there.
Mm.
I didn't want you to think it was me.
No, no, darling. Of course not. I knew it wasn't you.
Don't lean forward, Mr. Rollingston. Relax. Thank you.
What are you leaning for, Les? Oh,
Hello?
can you hear?
Yes, Flo.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, very
I
good.
just popped in for a few minutes to have a little more experience of speaking to you.
You're
Can you hear all right?
Yes, you're most persevering, Flo.
Oh, yeah.
Good thing, too.
I guess I wouldn't have made much headway on your side of the hand. Perseverance is one of the most important things if you're going to do anything at all in any way.
Quite right.
If
That's
you
what
want
you
to
had all right.
communicate, you have to stick it out, you know, and keep on pushing away, you know. I don't know, if only you could see all these people around here, I guess you'd have plenty to talk about.
Mm. They tell us that they can't all come through, but while you're here, you might as well tell us something of who are there and so on.
Well, I don't think I'd be far wrong if I said there's someone, at least one person of every nationality and of every generation of time under the sun here. You know, the more one sees of life, the more one realizes how much we have to learn. Even on this side, I realize there are souls who've been here centuries and centuries and centuries, who've progressed beyond any outward appearance of the physical body, and yet they still retain, you might say, a personality. But it's a personality that you feel and you sense, and in a sense you see, but you don't see that personality, you don't see that individual, if you like, in a physical outline or shape. But it's something that you're conscious of, and they are very highly evolved souls who've left behind completely and absolutely every condition of earth, every vestige of the material life. They are completely and solely and wholly spirit, and in consequence, the physical outer organism is completely gone.
You mean to say that you just only sense them, you can't see anything?
Well, that may be because I can't reach up to them, and they can't manifest on my particular plane of mind and existence. Yeah. No doubt, if in time, eventually I rise sufficiently high, they will become visible to me as human beings, that is, shall we say, as souls, as spirits, as people. Whether they'll be exactly the same in shape, I doubt it, I don't know. But there's one thing I think that becomes very obvious to you here, when you've been here any time at all, or should I say, be more exact, when you've made any real kind of progress, that you gradually notice that all the material, physical aspects that differentiates male from female gradually disappears, and you have in its stead a sexless individual or a sexless spirit, with no real physical difference. I don't know if I'm making this clear at all.
Yes, it is.
I think when you get down to basic things, you realize that the outward physical shape of the human body is merely a matter of, well, you might almost say chance. Whether it's actually chance or not, I don't know, but whether you happen to be born one sex or the other, in a sense, is unimportant. It just happens that you grow up, you're either female or male or a mixture of the two. But anyway, over here, you begin to realize that there's a fusing, as it were, much more than ever on earth, of male and female. There is a sort of rejuvenation, I don't know if that's even the word to use, but there is an awareness and an awakening to the cosmic realities and the consciousness of life, spiritual, which gradually takes away all the old earthly ideas regarding male or female and many of the things appertaining to sex on your side. That doesn't necessarily happen at once. I'm quite sure it doesn't. It certainly didn't in my case, and in many of my friends here I know that they retain outwardly identically the same appearance they had on earth, though possibly looking quite a bit younger. But I do know that from some of those I've linked up with and communed with, that there is, to all outward appearances, no sex. I don't know if I'm going to describe this at all well, but the point is that you lose.
You would lose certain emotions, I suppose.
Yeah, well, everything becomes on a very, very highly refined status, or stage, or state of evolution, where love is the predominating factor, but it is a love that is completely and absolutely spiritual, where the old desires and the old physical conditions are lost. Of course, this may not happen to some for many, many centuries of time. You tell it.
And then the organs of the body too, the organs of our body, for instance, all that must gradually disappear.
Yeah, but you see, I think someone may have told you, I don't know if I did about this before, that gradually all the internal organs disappear. For instance, when you first come here, you feel a desire to eat and drink, and you have those things. But gradually, as the desire leaves you to eat, the desire leaves you to drink, so you find, over a process of time, without any sort of perhaps inner consciousness at first, certain organs gradually begin to disappear. And you find eventually, as you lose the desire to eat and drink, you sort of don't have the same sort of mental approach to things, so certain parts, as it were, of the body disappear. They have no longer any value, any use. So the same applies with physical organs, sex organs, for instance.
Yes, but for a certain time there must be form, mustn't there?
Oh, yeah, I know that. I know, but what I'm trying to tell you is that as there's a gradual process of change in the mentality, and a gradual change in the personality, gradual change in the character of the person, as the spiritual body begins to be affected by the mental and the emotional and the inner self, the soul, if you like, so you get these changes gradually taking place until you get to such a state that you cease to exist in a certain sphere or spheres, and you go into a much higher stage of being, a much higher state of life, where things are quite different, where you lose the outer shape as you understand it.
Do you have to go through a certain form of death, shall we say, like we have to go through?
Yeah, in a way, you do, but it's not the same kind of death. I don't know how to describe it to you.
No, you...
Look, if you can talk about the chrysalis and the butterfly, you got some very vague idea what I mean. As you progress and progress, you gradually find that the body that you've been using is of no longer any need or value to you, and you discard it. You go into a kind of mental coma, if you like, and you find when you come out of that state of coma that you are without the body, which was a replica only of the physical body anyway in the first place, and you find that you have a much more purified and rarefied form, though not in the form as you would know when on earth. You see, the etheric body is an exact counterpart of the physical body, but that is not the real you any more than your body today is the real you. It's only the covering, it's only the vehicle of the soul.
Yes.
And it's the soul that goes on and on, not the etheric body. That may last perhaps for centuries of time as you understand time, maybe thousands of years. You go through many phases of life, many spheres of activity. You retain your outward shape and form perhaps for centuries. I know that in my case I'm sure a long way from getting to become a complete soul. I'm just at the moment an individual who has progressed to a certain degree, but I know that I still retain all my outward appearance and shape as I was known on earth, and I guess that goes on for a hell of a long time, because I know there's a lot I got to learn. But I do know eventually, same as these people that we don't see, but we know, we sense, if you like, I don't know how to put it, but we have mediums here, in a sense like you have mediums in your world, who are highly rarefied beings, who are in a position, though not to go over there themselves, that is to the very high stages of being, but are able to receive a certain amount of information and help, which they pass on to us who are less fortunate and not so highly developed. Every phase, every stage of humanity has to be reached, passed, and progressed to a newer and a higher. Every individual passes through stages. You're passing through a stage now, and then you come here, you'll pass through a process of change. You'll go on and you'll live very much a similar sort of life in some ways. That is, you'll have the same mental reactions, no doubt, for quite a while regarding love and affection. You have the same, perhaps even passions. Physical love exists on this side. It's not something that is discarded immediately. It's not something that's looked down upon. It's something that's quite natural. You still have the same mental attitude to certain things, and while those things are important, while those things are vital, you still have that ability to carry on the same way. There's no disgrace in that. No one can suddenly become a complete, perfected soul. You have to go through all these different conditions and stages. Children are born over here too, on certain spheres, and those children are very beautiful because they're born of the mind and of the soul and of the spirit. They're born, as it were, of love. And although the physical, if I can use such a word, the psychic bodies are used to procreate the child in union, yet there isn't the contamination, as it were, of the real material essence or part. You know, there's so many things we've got to explain, but the point is, it's very difficult. We should really divide, I suppose, every plane into many sections. That might help, but it's very difficult. What one person may tell you, like our friend who just spoke about the house on the mist, and that was his experience.
Yeah.
But that was because he'd only reached a certain development, certain stage. In fact, you might almost say in his initial case, he hadn't reached very far at all. But he had to bridge the gulf for himself. It was something that he had to do. But his reception, once he desired help and guidance and upliftment, made it easier for his friends to help him. Gradually he was led on. But there are some people, when they first come here, because they did exemplary lives on your side, they make a much greater progress, and their reception is quite different, and their experiences are different. But as I say, everyone that comes can only tell his own story in his own way. And although there may be differences in the way, gradually you find it all dovetails in, and it all tallies. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Every little bit's important to the whole.
Yes, that should make all the stories very, very interesting, all the variable ones.
Yeah, they will be most interesting, I know that. But you have to be very patient, you know. Because, you know, it's not easy coming to talk to you people. It's not easy for us to form words, to pick things that we want to give you, you know. Whatever we tell you, I want you to realize it can only be just a glimpse of what we're trying to convey. We've got to bring it down to material language, and much must be lost.
Well,
we do our best, you know.
Those glimpses would help us all a great deal.
Well, I want you to know, above anything else, is that whatever your life has been on earth, whether it's been very good, very bad, or not so bad like most people, there is a chance. There is a home. There is a hope. And above all, there is a love that will sustain you, that will help you, that will guide you, that will uplift you and save you. There's so many friends here of all degrees, all conditions, the stages of development, that are always ready to give a helping hand to a newcomer. No one need fear dying, no matter what his condition is. For in the end, eventually, there's a path. No matter if it's some poor so-and-so who did some pretty grim things. Maybe there were some redeeming features in himself. Maybe there was something way back in his history, in his parents' history maybe, that set a seed that, well, made him do certain things that were pretty wrong, probably very wrong. But there's always a love, there's always a power, there's always a way for every one of God's children. No one is denied who asks for help. For once there is a redeeming desire, you might say, within oneself, then you're on the right road. May not be an easy road, may be a difficult road for some, but you're never alone. The same as a friend that was mentioned to you who was lost in the mists. That condition of mist was created by the thoughts, the evil thoughts, the bad thoughts of untold numbers of souls who created it from your world. All around your world there is a land of mist. It hovers over the earth like a black pall. Some people, when they leave your world, pass right through it without even knowing it's there, because their minds and their lives have been elevated to such an extent that they couldn't be conscious of its existence. There are many to whom that fog is a reality, and they wallow, they hover in it for quite a while. And sometimes, instead of coming up to us, they find it easier to get down to you. And they hover around your world rather than merge into this condition of depression and fog around you on the earth. And they impinge themselves on the minds, mentalities of weak people. That's why you have to be strong in your word. You have to learn to overcome yourself. You have to learn to overcome the things in yourself that you know are bad, that are wrong. And that's why it's important that you should have courage, faith, and you should have within yourself enough love for all humanity, no matter who the individual is. You should have some sympathy, try to have some understanding. For as you give out kind thoughts, as you give out love, as you give out sympathy, so you're helping not only the individuals concerned, but yourself, and also those who are earthbound around your world. And believe me, there are many. Only you could see them. And if you could see the kind of places they haunt, you wouldn't go near any one of them. You take the man who was a drunkard. He haunts sometimes the places which were habitual to him when on earth. He sees his old cronies and his companions standing over the bar having another one. And often he gets a great satisfaction or enjoyment out of that. And you find that the vices and the lower part of himself enters, as it were, into the physical organism of the friend or person, whoever it may be, in the earth condition. And you get influences set at work. You know, you look in your papers, you read, don't you? Someone's been attacked. Perhaps some young girl's been attacked. And the next night you read about another one.
Yes.
Perhaps the next night you need to read about 3 or 4 more. Well, that's a kind of condition which arises because it affects the minds of others. It impinges itself upon the weak mentality. And perhaps someone here who in a moment of foolishness and madness committed a murder, he may hover around and impinge his thought upon someone else with a weak mentality and a like nature, and someone else does the same deed. You'll always find in your world that one deed sets off a dozen others or more. Same as a war. It grows in its intensity and ferocity. Once you set, as it were, the ball rolling, it gathers speed and it gathers to it tremendous force and power. The higher the rate is, the greater the force behind it. You just don't know in your world what the power of thought is like. So it's important that when you think right thoughts, so that you live right lives, and you do right things. And I know that if you strive always to do your best, you can't go far wrong, because there's plenty of good friends here who come to you to guide you, to help you, to uplift you, to share all your little problems and your troubles and guide you on them if they can. Life's to be lived, but at the same time there's a way of living it.
Yes.
Can you hear what I say?
Oh, who?
Yes,
Somebody else now.
Yes, it's a Scotch man.
Oh, Scott.
Isn't it?
Yes.
The voice suddenly changed.
Yes. I know.
Hey, that's all right. I've only taken over now. The other friend got tired, so I thought I'd take over for him, because we're both on the same thought vibration.
That's
And I
very-
can quite easily pass over his thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That's a
interesting.
very smooth change.
Aye, can you hear now what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
yes,
Yeah.
rather.
Aye, that's good.
You've been before, haven't you?
Aye, many a time in the past.
That's
Yeah.
Jock.
I've been right close to the instrument for many years now.
You have. You've spoken to me
Aye,
once. I just
aye, that's right. I remember you now, laddie.
That's right.
Jock.
Aye.
Oh, do explain to me how that happened. Did you get tired or something?
No, what you have to remember is
Yes.
The
that
concentration.
we are all working together here and working on a mental plane.
Yes.
And it's mind all the time. Whereas it's difficult for you to realize, perhaps, in your world,
Yeah.
that it's more, in your world, physical, obviously.
Yes.
Here it's mental.
Yes.
Could you explain
We can
something?
transmit, as it were, all our thoughts through. And yet, we can all have a go. And yet, one can take over automatically from the other.
Yes.
All linking up together.
Oh, this is the first time that it happened. But I
Aye.
find it
Quite intriguing. Aye, there's a lot of things you don't know nothing yet. Aye, we've got plenty of things out of sleep for you. Aye,
Wow.
all sorts of experiments too. I
Yeah.
think this Friday night's going to be one of the real, well, I think it's going to be something even more than you can realize. But it's going to take time.
Oh, yes.
Once we get on the right mental plane,
Yes.
working with you in complete harmony, and I know we can do some wonderful things.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
Aye,
Oh,
Yes, I bet.
we are absolutely thrilled. And
you know,
and
one of the greatest things
Hmm.
is the realization that we are exactly what we ourselves have made ourselves. And once we accept the fact that we are what we have created, not what someone else has done for us, but what we have made ourselves.
Yes.
It gives us great opportunity to make so much more of ourselves. Often you hear people in your world saying, I don't know why some are able to do this and some are able to do that. I don't have a chance, and yet they seem to get on much better than I do. I know that sometimes things in your world seem very unequal, but there's a reason behind everything. What you have to remember is, although you're an individual, or shall we say you're forming yourself into an individual to a great extent, you are reacting along a natural line peculiar to yourself, and no one can affect you. Though you may have been born, shall we say, in better circumstances, there's no doubt about it, you'd have still followed that same sort of road. You may not have done quite the same things, you might not have had the same social standard, as it were, but fundamentally, you'd still have had the same intuitions, you'd still have had the same sort of emotional reactions to people and circumstances. You'd have still been much the same personality, although your outward appearances would have been different because of circumstances. The whole point is that you are what you are forming yourself. You have become what you are by your previous thoughts and actions. You have no doubt in your own mind, you should have no doubt in your own mind that you are a separate individual, but that does not mean to say that you can afford to neglect or ignore the other individual or individuals around and about you. And it doesn't also affect the fact that you are to a certain extent today what circumstances made your parents. You know, there's an old saying that the sins of the parents fall on the children. Well, that's not altogether correct, but there's a certain truth in it now. Because life is all fluidic. Life is not something that begins at birth and ends at death. Life goes on. Life in its essence, and I want you to remember I use the word essence, life in its essence is a fluidic force or power which flows and flows continually through time and space, having no beginning and no ending. But it may flow, as it must eventually, into a physical organism or body. That body becomes a house or a case. But that small part of the individuals that becomes the individual spirit gradually begins to express itself, gradually begins to emerge as a personality. But it still is in essence part of the whole. Anyway, I don't know if you can quite follow what I'm trying to get at.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, we can follow
You
very well.
have to become a personality. You have to become a character before you can evolve separately from the essence.
Yes.
Yes.
Though the essence is there, it's like the small spark that is gradually flared into a tremendous flame.
Yes.
The physical house is merely the outer shell for a space of time in which it is able to live and express itself. But you may have many houses, not necessarily always on earth, but many houses on this side, many etheric houses, and many psychic houses, if you like to call them such. You go from sphere and sphere, plane and plane, until you become part once again of the whole, but in such a force, in such a way, that you are a tremendous vital essence, whereas previously in the very early stages, you are merely just a speck in everything. The same as you must feel at times you are a speck in time in the material sense, so in the early stages you are but a speck in spiritual matter, or spiritual time. You are merely, as it were, just the smallest grain of spiritual force, or soul power. But eventually, as you evolve and evolve and evolve, you expand, and you become a unit. You become an integral and important part of the whole. But to reach that stage of being in existence, to reach that magnificence, you have to go through all sorts of conditions and phases of life. You see?
Yes. Now, who is that now? Is that you still, Jock?
I come very pleased to speak to you.
But when
It is a little difficult for me, perhaps, at the moment,
Chopin.
to express everything so clearly as my friends. And I just wanted you to know I was here too. And, well, I can tell you in my own way later things which where music come in.
Oh, yes.
Because music is the basis, in a sense, of life.
Yes.
For vibration is life, Vibration is music. Harmony, it is the very essence.